At the beginning of the novel, Prince Mary Bolkonskaya, Andrew's sister, gives an accurate description of her brother. "You are good in every way, Andrew, but you have a kind of intellectual pride. That's a great sin." Andrei Bolkonski, being a very noble, moral, intelligent person, at the same time can feel contempt and disgust to the people he does not respect. He was raised by a strict father who imposed severe requirements on him, and that made Andrei Bolkonski get severe self-control. He can experience gentle feelings to few people in his life: his sister Mary, his friend Pierre Bezukhov, and then Natasha Rostova. Being married, he didn't love his wife. He felt annoyed with her and tried to avoid her company. He says to his sister Mary about his wife, "Know this, Masha, I can't reproach, have not reproached, and never shall reproach my wife with anything, and I cannot reproach myself with anything to regard to her, and that always will be so, in whatever circumstances I may be placed. But if you want to know the truth, if you want to know whether I am happy, no. Is she happy? No. But why this is so, I don't know." We can't say he is a believer, rather a skeptic, but of strong moral convictions. But his sister Mary, a deeply religious person, predicts, "Against your will, he will save and have mercy on you and bring you to himself, for in him alone is truth and peace." After his wife's death, after the Battle of Austerlitz, where Prince Andrew Bolkonski was badly wounded and Napoleon himself noticed him lying on the battlefield and ordered to take him to hospital, Andrei Bolkonski becomes hardened in his heart. He is disappointed in military and state service. His conclusions became hopeless, as Tolstoy puts it. Prince Andrew says to Pierre, "I am alive. That is not my fault. So I must live out my life as best as I can without hurting others." It seems to me that these thoughts are the thoughts of a very lonely person. Despite the fact that Andrei Bolkonski is loved and admired for his intelligence, dignity, attractiveness by many people, he is self-contained. He carefully guards his inner world and hardly let few precious people such as Mary and Pierre penetrate it. In one of the chapters, Andrei Bolkonski, watching spring changes in nature, notices an old oak which seems to refuse to yield to the charm of spring or notice either the spring or the sunshine. "Spring, love, happiness," this oak seemed to say, "are you not weary of that stupid, meaningless, constantly repeated fraud? Always the same and always a fraud. There is no spring, no sunshine, no happiness, and I do not believe in your hopes and your lies." Yes, the oak is right, 1,000 times right, thought Prince Andrew. Let others, the young, yield afresh to that fraud, but we know life. Our life is finished. He does not even know that very soon he will meet Natasha Rostova, first at the Rostovs Otradnoye mansion, where he will overhear her exciting words about flying away like a bird, and then at Natasha's first ball, where they will dance together. Vitality begins to fill him again, and he, a 31-year-old man, inspired by Natasha, her innocence, her trust in people, God and fate, her being delighted with the world around her, he, Prince Andrew, falls in love with Natasha. He loves her spontaneity, the trait that he himself lacks, because he is highly self-organized. He is reserved and she is emotional. He loves her sincerity. Like all men who have grown up in society, Prince Andrew liked meeting someone they are not of the conventional society stamp. And such was Natasha, with her surprise, her delight, her shyness, and even her mistakes in speaking French. It's very difficult to analyze the relationship between Natasha and Andrei Bolkonski before their break, because there was a lot of delight, mutual admiration, and maybe lack of true understanding each other. It's natural for a period of courtship. In Lecture 1 and Lecture 2 about Natasha Rostova, I try to explain the reason of her faithlessness. Here I would like to focus on Prince Andrew's feelings. His friend Pierre Bezukhov, being betrayed or insulted, usually gets angry or furious. Andrei Bolkonski in such situations feels contempt for insulters or traitors. He says to Pierre about Natasha after their break, "I said that a fallen woman should be forgiven, but I didn't say I could forgive her. I can't." He feels hostile to her. He assesses this situation in this way. "I understood her," he thought. "I not only understood her, but it was just inner spiritual force, that sincerity, that frankness of soul, that very soul of hers which seemed to be fettered by her body. It was that soul I loved in her." Loved so strongly and happily. And suddenly he remembered how his love had ended. He means Anatole Kuragin, he did not need anything of that kind. He neither saw nor understood anything of that sort. He only saw in her a pretty and fresh girl, with whom he did not deign to unite his fate. Life now again seems to Prince Andrew narrow, burdensome, useless to anyone, as Tolstoy puts it. He reflects on life, death, love, these existential things before the Battle of Borodino. He feels deeply disappointed in life. He's hostile to life, and at the same time, he does not want to die. Pierre Bezukhov, he meets Pierre Bezukhov before the Borodino battle, and they talk about the sense of war, who wins battles, and etc. Andrei Bolkonski's ideas about war are very deep, and I will focus on them in the next lecture about the war itself. He is hit by a bursting bomb because he's too proud to lie down. He does not want to show his fear to anyone around him. Paradoxically, the wound, which is fatal, makes a great change in him, in his soul, his heart, as if his egoistic shell has split and his soul or his core has appeared. Now he sees everything through the prism of divine love, as if he has put the truth glasses on. He does not feel jealous or insulted. He feels delighted. He feels compassion for all people. He feels love and compassion for Anatole Kuragin, his yesterday's treacherous enemy, who now is dying near him. He feels pure love for Natasha. Compassion, love of our brothers, for those who love us and for those who hate us, love of our enemies. Yes, that love which God preached on earth and which Princess Mary taught me and I did not understand. That is what made me sorry to part with life. That is what remained for me had I lived, but now it is too late. I know it. God lets Andrei Bolkonski and Natasha Rostova meet again. I talk about it in Lecture 1 and Lecture 2 about Natasha. But here let's look in more detail at Prince Andrew's last days and his experience of near-death, his near-death experience. He asks for the Gospels. He remembered that he had now a new source of happiness, and this happiness had something to do with the Gospels. Yes, a new happiness was revealed to me of which man cannot deprive, he thought. A happiness lying beyond material forces, outside the material influences that act on man. A happiness of the soul alone, the happiness of loving. Every man can understand it, but to conceive it and enjoy it was possible only for God. Leo Tolstoy conveys feelings and senses of a dying person and Prince Andrew, the feverish work of his mind, his fantastic visions, his unusual perception of reality. Tolstoy shows the borderline that separates the dying from the living and that misunderstanding between them. In his words, his tone, and especially in that calm, almost antagonistic look, could be felt an estrangement from everything belonging to this world. Terrible in one who is alive. Evidently, only with an effort did he understand anything living, but it was obvious that he failed to understand, not because he lacked the power to do so, but because he understood something else, something the living did not and could not understand, and which wholly occupied his mind. Now his mind is occupied by love to all people, to Natasha, and by thoughts about death. What is this love like? You can call it Christian love if you're a Christian, or divine love, or universal love. The love that makes you feel a part of something much bigger, much better, much more important, and much purer than you. The love that makes you perceive each person near you as your brother, as your sister. Unselfish love. Does Prince Andrew fear death? After a remarkable dream where he has to struggle with the opening door, he supposes that death is behind that door. He begins to feel free from death anxiety. That is the beginning of his end. He dies as an Orthodox Christian after confession and receiving communion. At the beginning of the lecture, I cited Princess Mary, who said to her proud and skeptical brother, "Against your will, he will save and have mercy on you and bring you to himself." God brought Andrei Bolkonski to himself by the experience of dying, and paradoxically, this experience of death, of dying, made him happy, conciliated, and loving. Mysterious are the ways of the Lord.